You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, 'cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Welcome to this week's edition of Blast!
This was skitty, this more skitty, more skitty, skitty, bork, bork, bork.
Get up on your feet. Put your hands together. Get up on your feet. Put your hands together.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us our daily bread, forgive us as we do the same. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from the evil one. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us our daily bread, forgive us as we do the same. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from the evil one.
Get up on your feet. Put your hands together. Get up on your feet. Put your hands together.
Yours is the kingdom, power, the glory. Yours is the kingdom, the power, the glory. Jesus, Jesus, He is so funky. Jesus, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us our daily bread, forgive us as we do the same. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from the evil one. Yours is the kingdom, the power, the glory. 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 Amen, 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 yeah.
Beatboxing with the Vicar.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Beatboxing Vicar. That's me, Reverend Gavin Tite, and I'm teaching you to beatbox. And this week we're going to learn how to do the Scooby-Doo laugh. Now Scooby-Doo laughs a bit like this. That was a bit silly. Well, of course it's silly. I'm the Beatboxing Vicar. Right, ready?
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Now I'm going to teach you how to make the Scooby-Doo laugh. Now the first thing we need to do is talk like a pirate, like this. Harr! Say harr! Yeah, it wasn't very good. Try again. Harr! That's right. And we got to talk like that from the back of our voice. Ha 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 ha. So once you can do that and talk like a pirate. Yeah, I am actually talking like a pirate. What we do is we then change the pitch from low to high to low to high to low to high like this and go. Like that. Keep it in the pirate voice. Like that. Speed it up. Like that.
Maggie, no, stop.
Hi, Uncle Scooby. I'm Scrappy Doo.
Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Nicky's Stickies. What are you gonna do?
Hi guys, welcome back to Nicky's Stickies. Interesting situation today, one I'm sure you've all found yourself in, one that I found myself in. A new girl joined the school that I was at. She was really cool, pretty, popular, funky. She told the most amazing stories, sometimes even exaggerating just a little bit. But one thing that started upsetting me was she kept on using the Lord's name in vain. I wasn't quite sure what to do. What do you think I should have done? Should I have A, rolled my eyes every time she said it and hoped that she stopped realizing? B, stand up and walk away in a big huff and a puff? C, pull her aside and tell her how I felt and maybe introduce her to Jesus? D, laugh with everybody else when she tells her jokes because they actually were really funny? Or E, just talk like she does when I'm with her because that's a cool thing to do? To know what to do, read Philippians 2 verse 9 to 11. Bye.
And now it's time for Cook with the Kook.
That's not a fruit of the spirit. No, that's not a fruit of the spirit either.
Oh, miss, Luke going to him. Attacking him. Oh, good leading from
Get sporty.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Shireen's Celebrity Meetups. Today on the show we have Amira, the soccer brilliant girl. Amira, it's so lovely to have you with us today. How are you?
I'm great.
You're great. Tell us a bit about your football or soccer, depending what you call it.
Well, I actually started football when I was about 2.5. I used to play for Somerset Pee-wees, and I played for their team for about a couple of years until I was 8, and then when I was 9, I took a break from football, and now as 10 years old, I actually play for Southampton Rangers Sports Club.
Wow, that is fantastic. And what football skills are you going to show us today?
I will show you my dribbling. I could show you my headers, and I could show you I can show you my tricks that I can do.
Fantastic. And since we can't be together because we're on lockdown, what football challenge do you have for me today?
Can you juggle the ball for 30 seconds?
Can I juggle the ball, like keep it up for 30 seconds?
Can you at least try and keep it on your neck for 30 seconds?
On my neck? How do you do that?
Well, it's pretty simple, but you just put it on your neck. You try and balance it for about 30 seconds. Or if you can't do 30 seconds, then see how long you can do it for.
Okay, I'm going to give it a go. Over to the outside where Amira is going to show us some of her skills.
Vestry vibes.
Welcome to Vestry Vibes, and today I want to talk about this stuff, bread. Now, in the Anglican Church, you might see us using these like kind of wafery things like this. Wafery things. You might be thinking, why on earth are we using wafers and not bread? Well, it's a bit of a practical reason, really. There's no reason why in the Church of England we couldn't use a nice loaf of bread that we make. And it could be sourdough or granary bread or white bread. It wouldn't matter, a roll. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing illegal about using bread. The only reason we use these wafer things is they keep for ages. They're great for storing as well. They don't go mouldy. They don't dry out and go stale. They just last forever. But here's the thing you might not know. And that is Jesus, when he broke bread with his disciples, probably used a bread called matzo. And matzo is actually a bit like a wafer. It's actually a dry cracker, an unleavened and unyeasted and unrisen, very dry kind of bread. That's what they would have used. And when I say dry, I mean literally like a cream cracker. That's probably the closest thing we have to matzo. And so actually our wafers in the Anglican Church, bizarrely, are probably closer to the original bread that Jesus used than our lovely, lovely white fluffy loaves. Now, why do we have two sizes here? I've got a little one here and we've got a big one here. Well, generally the priest will use a big one and break a big one, representing one body broken for all. And then we kind of give people individual ones. It's just an easy way of doing it. Personally, I quite like the real bread. And so maybe once or twice in church, we might start using a whole loaf of bread, a fresh loaf of bread, and we can break that open and share it. And there's something beautiful about that. But in the meantime, we have these wafery things, and they're pretty close to what Jesus used. And I think that's cool.
The fruit of the spirits, not an avo. No, the fruit of the spirits, not an avo. If you want to be an avo, you might as well hear it. Chef, avocado toast, please.
You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, 'cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Update.
Welcome to this week's Upbeat Update. Now imagine if your family pet went missing. You'd do anything to get it back, right? That's exactly what this chap did. His cat went missing, so he put out posters and adverts on Facebook. 2 weeks later, he was walking down the street when he saw his cat. He managed to coax it back to the house. Great end to the story, right? Well, the day after he found this cat, his real cat came back. So now he has 2 identical cats. I wonder who the other one belongs to.
Meow!
Okay, Amira, here we are. I'm gonna balance the ball on the back of my neck. I'm pretty sure I'll be amazing. Woohoo! That was like 2 seconds! Whee!
The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Grill a Vika.
It's barbecue time.
Welcome to this week's Grill a Vicar. Let's see what question we've got this week. Oh, here we go. The question is, and I haven't seen these questions before, so I never know what's going to come up. Have you ever seen a dead person? If yes, how did you feel? Have I ever seen a dead person? Yes and no. I mean, obviously as a vicar, I have conducted lots and lots of funerals. I haven't actually seen a dead person, weirdly, but I've seen lots of coffins, and when you first start doing funerals, it's really, really hard. The very first funeral I did was actually for a baby. And I remember standing in the graveyard with the parents and the little white coffin, which was only about this big, being lowered into the ground. And what do you say? What can you do? I mean, you have the words, kind of written words you can say, but all I could do was just stand there and cry with the parents. And after the funeral was over, I just sat in the car and I cried for an hour solidly. I just could not sobbing my eyes out. I haven't seen dead people, but I've done lots of funerals, and everyone is difficult. So, a bit of a sad one there for Grilla Vicar, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough, isn't it? It's tough. People die, and I guess it's a privilege to be with people at a time in their lives when they're grieving and they need that support, and that's part of my job. That's what I do. It's just to love people.
Welcome back to the studio. Thank you for those amazing skills, Amira. You know, back in the day, I used to play some pretty good football. People thought I was going to be really amazing.
That's great. Just keep on putting your mind to it and it will come true.
So maybe I'll get there one day.
Yes.
So Mira, could you tell us what is your big faith question for today?
Well, my big faith question is, does God/Jesus desire me?
That is a really good question. Does God desire you? Well, I think it's safe to say that God really, really loves us. And you know, like when you go to the beach and you lie on the beach and you feel that warm sun and it's really just brightens everything up. And then if you go inside, you might not be able to see the sun, but you can still feel that warmth.
Yes.
That is what God is like for us. So he's even though we can't see him, that warmth is always with us wherever we go. He always wants to be with us. He always wants to be a part of everything that you do. And in Romans 3 verse 8, I think the verse is, there's nothing we can do to escape the love of God. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you so much for joining us today. That's all we have time for. See you next week. Bye.
Should I get this in backwards?
The first fruit of the Spirit isn't an avocado, it's love. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. John 3:16-17.
Epsilon, Chapter 5. The game begins. A tired-looking Stu, shirt hanging out of his trousers, slipped his key into the lock of the front door and let himself in. He dragged his school bag behind him and flung it at the bottom of the stairs. He needed food. There was something about school that seemed to drain all his energy, and even though later on he or Dad would be cooking up a pizza, he always came back from school ravenous. On his way to the kitchen, he saw a handwritten note lying on the hall table next to the home telephone. It was from his dad. "Remember, if I'm not back, it's in the fridge. Love, Dad," with a kiss. Stu scrunched up the note and tossed it into the waste paper basket under the table as he headed straight for the fridge. The fridge was full of dubious-looking cartons and packets. Since his mum had died, and with his dad working such long hours, he and Dad had lived on ready meals. Stu bypassed a plastic tub with "Slon Pie" written on it, sniffed a bowl of leftover spaghetti bolognese, decided it was probably still edible, nuked it in the microwave for a few minutes, grabbed a spoon, and took the steaming food into the living room. Stu settled into the sofa and passed the evening watching back-to-back TV game shows. The latest offering was called Beat Your Neighbour. where contestants were given a budget to design each other's facial plastic surgery. The climax of the show was when the neighbours removed the bandages and faced their new looks in a mirror. Sometimes they were happy, but mostly they screamed and tried to kill each other. Stu clicked off the TV, yawned and looked at the clock on the mantelpiece. It was 10:12 p.m. and still no sign of Dad. He decided to head up to bed. On the way, he grabbed his bag and trudged up the stairs. As he threw his bag on his bed, the packet from Real Reality tumbled out. He'd forgotten all about it. Stu ripped open the packet, and inside was a single white data block. No case, no booklet, just the red Real Reality logo printed on the side. He woke up his PC and waited. Even though the operating system was the 3 kilobit DAWs version 13, he still had to wait before he could put the data block close enough to be picked up by the system. Stu pulled up a chair and switched on his desk lamp. As he did so, his screen went completely white. Behind him, through his open bedroom door, Stu heard the front door slam. "Hi, Dad!" he yelled. He listened for a reply, but got none. He was used to being ignored, so he closed his bedroom door and focused his attention back to the screen. Stu put on his control ring and moved his pointer, but the screen remained white. He tried tapping a few keys, but nothing happened. Great. He thought, DAWs 13 crashes again. He was about to press the manual reset button when the screen went black and a small flashing cursor appeared in the top left-hand corner. A moment passed before writing slowly appeared. What kind of game would you like to play? Stu chuckled to himself. This was so retro, like a scene out of the 1990s movie The Matrix that his dad had made him watch. But at the same time, it felt kind of cool. He hadn't used a keyboard for some time and leant over, rummaging in a box of computer bits and pieces, and pulled out a keyboard. He laid it on the desk, hit the connect button, waited for the blue light to come on to signal it was working, and typed his response. Real Reality. The computer software replied. I know, but what kind of game? Adventure, fantasy, science fiction? This kind of basic artificial intelligence reminded Stu of the stories his dad used to tell him about home computers back in the late 20th century. They had weird names like ZX Spectrum and Xbox. He guessed putting an X in the title made them sound cool. He'd even got one up and running and typed in a program using BASIC, a precursor to the more modern Neo-Basic programming language, which did this sort of simple AI thing. Stu decided to play along. I'd like to play a futuristic adventure, please, he typed. That'll fool it, he thought. The software didn't respond immediately, but the next message took Stu by surprise. A futuristic adventure? That's really precise, isn't it? I suppose I'll have to make something up that is appropriate for you. What difficulty level can you handle? A sarcastic piece of software? Stu wasn't sure if this was just a clever language parser or a fluke response. He tried a more difficult reply. He started to type again. I'll let you choose it, but I have to tell you, I'm pretty good at computer games. This time the software responded immediately. Imprecise and big-headed too. Okay, Stu, let's start the game. Your mission is to discover the whereabouts of Professor Books, a military scientist who recently went missing whilst working on a project codename Epsilon. You need to find Books. Shouldn't be too hard for a pretty good gamer like you. Stu finished reading the message when the screen went blank and a static pop came from his Pro Monitor Company digital flat speakers. Stu jumped out of his skin and noticed he was breathing rapidly. A thin line of white smoke was coming from the data block and the acrid smell of burning plastic filled his nostrils. He swore and grabbed a half-empty can of cola and splashed some onto the smouldering plastic, which hissed and cooled into a brown, useless lump. Just as he did this, he heard a loud thump come from the room below him, his dad's study. He opened his bedroom door, but all was quiet and dark. Dad? There was no answer. Dad? Still no answer. Something didn't feel right. Stu exited his room and crept slowly down the stairs. The only light was coming from under the door of his dad's study. He knocked on the door, but there was no reply. Slowly turning the handle, he opened the door. Stu's eyes grew wide as he surveyed the scene. The drawers of his dad's desk and filing cabinet were open and papers were scattered all over the floor. Books were off shelves and his dad's desktop computer had been dismantled, parts clearly missing. Stu stood in the doorway, unable to move. He was startled by his mobile phone buzzing and vibrating in his back pocket. He raised the phone to his ear. Hello, he whispered in a nervous voice. The sound of feedback blasted in his ear, and this was followed by white noise and static. A clear, monotone male voice began to speak. If you ever want to see your father alive again, find Epsilon. And then the phone went dead.
You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, 'cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Blast. Now, if you're stuck at home and you're thinking, I'd like to be involved in Blast, well, you can. If you've got an idea for a segment, or you'd like to be on Quiz-A-Kid, or you've got a question for Grilla Vicar, or anything, and you'd like to be involved, you've got a camera, you've got a phone, brilliant. Get in touch. The email is revgav@anglican.bm. Do get in touch. It'd be great to have your involvement. Well, I'm going to finish now, as always, with a prayer. Holy God, thank you for this amazing program that we've been able to put together. Thank you for all the contributors, young and old. And as always, I pray that we will be a great blessing to those around us. Help us to love you, God. Help us to love our friends, our families, our neighbours. And help us to love the environment too. That we might be a blessing, that we might be your people in your place, in your world, your ambassadors, your agents for good and for wondrous change. Amen.
The first fruit of the Spirit isn't an avocado. Okay, let's try this again. Oh dear.
She's lost it. She's lost it.